Hey, it's James. Welcome back to JG3 Reviews. I want to share with you today a new for 2020 version of a familiar pen. First, this is the Wingsung 601. It's one of my favorite piston filler pens. It ticks a lot of boxes. It's kind of a Parker 51 style. It's a piston filler. It has a hooded nib. I like all those things. Not everybody does, but I like all those things. And it has an ink window. So I have really enjoyed this pen, and you can check out the review linked above to that. But I've also always kind of wondered about the 601A. And the version that's been out of that pen for a while has this very unique, at least to me, nib that kind of goes around the nib section, the feed section, and all of that, and then comes to its point. But I've always heard that it was a little bit scratchy, so I never pushed the button on that one and ordered that pen. And then I noticed earlier this year, back very, very early fall, late summer, the 2020 version of the Wingsung 601A, and it had a different nib, one that I thought, I bet that one is not scratchy at all. And it is this steel number 5 nib from Wingsung. And so, as you can see, I must have ordered the pen. So I want to share with you today my impressions of this updated version of the 601A and compare that to just the plain 601 and tell you what I like, what I don't like, and all that good stuff. So let's flip that camera and get into this pen. All right, so let's look over this 601A. Really, the nib is the only thing different that I can find that was changed in this design. Everything else, if you're familiar with the 601 or the 601A before 2020, you're familiar with this pen. So let's go over those things for those who are not yet familiar. This is, again, a Parker 51 style Wingsung pen with a traditional arrow clip that is a good, usable, strong clip, a stainless steel cap that comes to this plastic jeweled finial. I forgot the word for finial for a second. Plastic jeweled finial that I actually like that. It's blue, so I like it. What do you know? Bottom of the barrel is the same type finial with this chrome trim ring and a plastic barrel. This is a piston filler, so while you don't really see very well, maybe on camera, the line, because they've done a good job of making that seam blend in well, this is where you would turn this and the piston will go down and then back up, create a vacuum, and pull in the ink. So you can't see that, especially in this color, I think, but that is there, and I can't twist it because the pen's full of ink. Okay, so let's take that cap off, which does, let's get that out of the way, it does post very well and securely, and it does have a plastic sleeve insert for those who want that detail as well. You come to this plastichrome band around the center, and you have an ink window. And actually, let me just say, the ink window is optional. If you don't like the ink window, you don't have to have it. They have it with and without. It's the same price for the pen, but you do have a lot of choices, and there are actually a good number of color choices, including a stainless steel version of the pen and a, well, I don't know about that with this particular nib, but I know that the 601 and 601A generally have a stainless steel version and a clear transparent version of the 601 and 601A. So a lot of color choices that you have. So plastic barrel, plastic knob, and a plastic grip section, which is very comfortable. It tapers down, a fairly smooth, even taper down to the nib. Now there is no, sometimes they have a bell-shaped curve out on some pens that help you stop going down. This does not have that on any of these. Obviously the hooded nib would not either. But a comfortable pen. It has a not very heavy and yet not too light. It's a well-balanced pen, very comfortable to use, long enough, uncapped and unposted, that even a larger hand is not going to have any issue there. And because it's smooth all the way up, there's nothing that hangs. Every now and then there'll be a pen that might have a trim ring or something back here, or maybe it's the finial at the back if it's a shorter pen that rubs right there and you don't like that. Nothing. Just good, comfortable, nice classic design of the pen. Let's look at the nib. The nib is a steel gold toned nib. It's not a gold nib, but a gold toned nib with decorations, as you can see, etched into the pen. Nicely done. But a number, pretty standard number 5 nib overall with a standard plastic feed that we see on so many pens. That gives you an idea. Yeah, it is a stiff nib, I will say that. And you can see this is thicker than some steel nibs. That's one of the things that I noticed working with it is it's a fairly hard as nails, thick, stiff nib. I'll put a picture up. In the standard 601A that's been around for a while, it's just a completely different thing. And I would actually this is what I would ask of you who have that pen. If you've had the 601A with the old style 601A nib, would you please tell me whether or not it's as scratchy as some of the reviewers I've seen talk about it as they say it is, or is that an inconsistency? What's been your experience if you have that pen? I am really curious because I think it's a unique looking pen, but I don't want it if it only looks unique but writes terribly. So give me your impressions. I'd appreciate that. Let's go ahead and get on to the writing test of this pen. This is the Wing Sung 601A. This is a 2020 edition, or that's how they have been selling it on eBay and Etsy. I think I got mine on Etsy. This is a fine, and this is definitely a 2 medium fine on the one that I got. And this is Noodler's Heart of Darkness black ink. Okay. I'm going to be quiet, let you hear how this writes. My microphone is fairly close. It'll probably pick up on it well. It might even exaggerate it a little bit. That skip was me. I felt myself let up on the pen a little bit. Try this for wetness. Actually, I would have thought it was a little bit wetter than that by the way it looks on the paper here to my eye. But a fairly wet, especially for a fine. That is a pretty wet writer. I've had some of these that actually are somewhat dry, so that seems to vary a little bit. But this one, that's quite wet, really, for a fine pen. Very good smooth nib. I have no issues whatsoever with that. There is no drag, very little feedback. It just writes really quite well. And so I have no complaints whatsoever about the steel nib. I would say it compares favorably to, Jinhao has a very good number 5 fine nib on all the pens that I've gotten with that nib. And I think it compares to that nib quite well. I actually don't, oddly enough, I don't have one here on my desk. I usually do. But I think it compares favorably with that pen. No issues there whatsoever. Let me show you the difference, if you're not familiar with that other 601 model. This is the hooded nibbed version of the pen, and it is an extra fine. Do a little bit here with this pen. You'll see a difference for sure. So it's, fine to extra fine. You can tell the difference there. Probably the extra fine in the hooded is truer to what you might expect of an extra fine, although not like a Japanese extra fine, more of a Western extra fine. And this, maybe I don't have it on my desk either right now. That's unusual too. Maybe comparable in line thickness to a Lamy Safari's fine. That would give you some idea if you're familiar with that. It's been reliable. It hasn't dried out on me. And so, I like this version of the pen. Just by appearances, I think I did get the wrong caps. That just doesn't fit quite as well, I think. I don't know. I'll check it out when I'm done. But I probably... For looks, I enjoy that hooded nib. I think it's a good-looking pen. I like this color a little bit better, too. Although this darker green. I can't remember what they call it, army green or something like that. I like. So good looking pen, but again, lots of choices in colors. Very well made, very well put together. Let's do size comparisons. Obviously, it's going to be the same size as that, so let's take that out. Here is my Keiko Edge, and let me give you an update. So far, it's been another probably nearly a month, and no cracking issues there. I will say I do still have the pen drying out on me from time to time, so there is that. But other than that, great writer every time I use it. Just a wonderful nib on that pen. And then the Kakuno, also great pen. That gives you some size comparison there. Let me get these where you can see that a little bit better. I can't see the camera very well. And then here is the Waterman Graduate, just almost the same length exactly, just different widths at parts because of the different ways in which they taper. And the Jinhao X750, which a lot of you probably do have, and so that's a good comparison. And then, just for fun, we'll put out, that's the Sharpie S-Gel, gives you an idea of the size of that as well. Some of you may have that pen. So there you go. Good pen. I find it to be reliable, smooth. Piston filler holds a decent amount of ink. Very well made. A good looking pen. Kind of a stylish, mid-century styled pen. And I would recommend it. I think it's a great pen. And of course you have choices. You can go with the one I just showed you, or there is the hooded nib, or there is that other one out there that I can't really say because I've never had one. But these two are excellent, and those two I definitely would recommend. All right, God bless you. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next review.